Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm Gumshoe Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about a murder at the end of the world. This is episode 6. This is the pentultimate episode, which is a term I only use in context of podcasting, and because Tom taught it to me, I actually hate myself for using it, but this one was called Crime Scene. Tom, you love a pun. Scene was not spelled S-C-E-Y-E-A-N like it should be. It was spelled S-E-E-N. Talk to me. You love explaining puns. Explain to me why it was called Crime Scene.
I mean, they did reenact Bill's murder earlier on, so maybe that is them seeing him, or they did see, like, I guess the Silver Doe guy, meet his demise. So I don't know exactly what it's referencing.
Okay. You don't think it's crime saying, hey, I need to be seen. I need to be recognized.
I see you crime. I see what you're doing.
All right. I think we stumbled upon it. The show didn't get us there, but we got there because we're weirdos. Let's dive into this one. We've got one episode after this. That's what pentultimate means. It's called a finale. And the last one left us on a bit of a cliffhanger. I don't think any of the other ones left us on cliffhangers, but this one had her swimming in the pool and this impenetrable, I'm going to call it an ice cover, slid over her and trapped her inside the pool. So we come to, and she is still swimming in the deepest, darkest pool of anywhere ever. Like, I thought it was almost a dream sequence a couple of times when they kind of panned out. And then I thought about all the chlorine that who's the maintenance person that's keeping that from getting algae? Do you get algae in Iceland? I don't know. These are all of the things that pool owners should think about. But,
well, isn't this like more of a hot spring than a pool? Like, I think we talked about it last pod where I thought she would just swim outside and then she'd obviously be very exposed out there, but I thought they just kind of pulled this water in from the outside.
So a listener whom I happen to live with was very pointedly said we were wrong on that this is not one that you can swim out to the outside. This is a different pool. So
Okay.
To that listener, I say, no thanks for the criticism. So she's under the glass pool cover. Who saves her but one David and Lee, and they save her by smashing. What was this pool cover made out of, Tom? Bulletproof glass? Why do we need... I don't understand. Someone explain to me. Someone at poolcovers.com, send me a message. Explain to me why this pool cover was this way, and also where I can get one.
I mean, the way they shot this of that, like, shadowy figure overlooking this and then kind of running, the way they did it in the last episode made it seem like it was the murderer, but
Sure.
they kind of play fast and loose with that and then have
Chicanery.
this big Lee, that's running away. But yeah, I don't know, he takes like a hatchet, an axe or something to this, I'm assuming it's plexiglass? I don't know what it is, but it breaks clean enough, and then you get that cool cinematic of her hand like floating lifelessly and then somebody grabbing it.
Samwise Gamgee. Yeah, Samwise Gamgee grabs her hand. And Frodo grabs Samwise's hand and she says, "You're never leaving without me, Mr. Frodo," or something like that. In Morse
Great
code.
if David delivered that line.
Yes, exactly. We have a very intimate hairbrushing scene, which was very cozy. It's winter where we live, Tom, so it's 80 degrees outside. This looked like a very cozy scene.
I mean, I don't know. I guess Lee's opening up a salon after this where she's blow drying her hair, brushing it ever so nicely. It was just weird. Like, why would you do this to a stranger? Like, you don't know this person. Like, yeah, give them a towel, but they can figure this part out.
That is a good point. They do talk to each other like they know each other, but they never met before this. She only knows, and by her, I mean Darby only knows Lee through the internet. So I don't really, but also, Tom, you're revealing a little bit about yourself in the fact that you've never taken a first aid drowning victim class, because they say the number one thing before establishing breathing, before having someone call, emergency or 911, you have to blow dry and brush their hair. That's number one on the list.
Okay. That's good. I'm learning.
Do we get sued if someone if someone uses that advice? Not doctors or first responders.
Boom, covered.
I think we're covered. Boom. All right, so we find out that Lee Morse coded Darby to meet her at the pool. And then the pool cover was, Tom, together now. The pool cover was
hacked.
The way they said that, I was like, all right, show. I got it. Thank you. Hacked. I don't know.
I feel like they've gone, and we've talked to this enough, but they keep saying the word hack over and over and over again. And my assumption is like nothing here is being hacked. It's just being controlled by Ray and the AI, right?
Sure.
Is that kind of your sense? Like,
yeah,
AI?
I started to get the sense that this hotel is haunted by AI. That's kind of, and I thought they were going to give us some more of that, but they went in a completely different direction in this episode. So I thought we were going to. Go ahead.
I've got more to add to that. So like, but I want to get it when we talk about kind of Lee and talking about Andy and Zoomer. But I've got a thought about like the concept of this place being haunted by the AI.
Sure. We have a conversation between Darby and Lee, and Darby's like, I don't know if I can trust you. And here's all the things I discovered about you that I don't trust. And she just starts talking about everything. This woman can't keep a secret. So talking about the fake passport. And then Lee looks off in the distance and goes, everyone I've told the truth to is gone. Other than David. But everyone else is gone. And then, I don't know. Darby's like, are you hiding something from Andy? And then we get Lee's like, not backstory, but we get this whole long story about why she's afraid of Andy, which I gotta be honest, I don't know. I thought this went in a direction I did not understand or I was not expecting, but it's essentially Andy is like controlling everything in Zoomer's life, and yeah, I don't know, Tom. Take it from me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, oh, it's his food intake, REM cycles, his alpha waves, like just trying to, I don't know, save this kid from every apocalyptic scenario, I guess.
Isn't that just parenting? Don't we all monitor what our kids eat? We all monitor their REM cycle, and by that I mean we go, hey, go to bed. Why are you up? Go to bed. No, you don't need to drink water. Go to bed. That's monitoring REM cycle. And then alpha waves. Gotta be honest, Tom, don't know how to make a joke about that because I don't know what alpha waves are. So I'm assuming it's a surfing term. You prefer the what?
The beta waves.
Oh, sure.
Or the gamma.
That tracks.
But like ultimately this kind of comes to a head in her backstory with Andy like hitting strikingly, not like slapping, like really goes at it, and like Zoomer's right there with it, and I think she makes a comment about Zoomer like seeing this and how he would react or behave to it. But this whole sequence is very Shining-esque, right? In fact, the movie The Shining.
I'm sorry, do you mean The Shinin', Tom? We don't want to get sued.
We can mention a movie. But the kid is like, on the bike. They have the camera angles kind of shot from behind as he's like taking the bike through this like hallway. And I mean, there's obviously plenty more parallels. The idea of like this winter isolation hotel in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of potentially driving men crazy, like it drove Jack Nicklaus crazy in the movie. I feel like in Shining, it was driving him crazy because of like supernatural elements. But here, I almost feel like Andy potentially is being driven crazy by the AI, or it's leading him down a path, or the AI is trying to do, whatever it's trying to do to protect Zoomer. But Andy is the one kind of playing along with it.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I agree with your opinion that Andy is faultless. It's the AI and the isolation that's causing him to be overly controlling and abuse his spouse. Yes.
Lee does have one line.
Deep down, Andy is a good guy, Tom. It's the AI's fault. Yes.
Okay.
You heard it here first, folks. I know Andy. That's not what you're saying. I've twisted what you said. I do. There is something about that bicycle shot down the hallway. Very Shinin'. You were completely right.
But Lee also does say something where it's like, you can't unteach the things that they learn, where she's kind of meaning Zoomer. But I'm assuming we can, as an audience, believe that to be AI. Like the AI is learning all these things about humanity and everything else, and it cannot unlearn it because it's a computer. It's going to take all that stuff into its calculations.
And that's why we saw Ray backhand Darby when she entered the hotel room earlier.
Well, Ray doesn't exist. That's why, like, again, so much of this is, it can't just be the AI who killed Bill, who had the mask on, who did all this other stuff. Like, it needs to be other people. We just don't know who that is. But all of it is, the assumption is, from my standpoint, is they're all being driven by decisions the AI is making.
Okay. You're saying Ray's not physically informed doing all
I don't
these
think
things.
so.
You're
No.
saying that if we unplug him, maybe problem solved just a little bit. Isn't that a Dwight thing? He's like, we're going to give him an extension cord that's only three feet long so that
Smart.
he can't
Smart.
kill us. Yeah. All right. She makes some comment about, I knew once this hotel was complete that Andy would control everything. And this leads to the classic Six Flags escape, which, Tom, is this where we take 20 minutes to talk about Six Flags and how much we've enjoyed Six Flags?
Never been to a Six Flag.
All right, well, it'll take 10 minutes, and I'll explain to you why I love Six Flags.
I always wanted to go. It's just one of those things I feel like I did. The Disney's Knott's Berry Farms were the ones that I maybe did. Never went to a Six Flag.
Okay, that's never went to a Six Flag. I guess that is how you would say it. I never went to a Six Flags. I don't know. I've been there, and it was a place. All right, so she goes. This is where the passport and the wig and all of that comes into play. She's explaining all that, and this is her taking Zoomer. I thought that this was a funny, where she's like, she gets in the like beater Volvo and drives away, and she's like, I'm free. And then you know what's going to happen when she gets to the cabin. Just the way, I don't know. I was not surprised, but I did like how they did all this. It was very menacing, even though I knew who was going to be at the cabin when she got there.
Yeah, I felt some of the stuff was just a little bit like laughable with like she has to explain every little detail of her hack and handing the phone to this other kid and going into the bank accounts and finding other people that are similar. And then, I don't know, she looks at a security camera at one point and has like laser eyes, which, I mean, again, I know she's just kind of like blocking the camera with glasses, but I felt it was just a little much.
Oh, I thought we were establishing that she had some sort of superpower. I thought
She's an X-Man?
Like, yeah, well, I thought yes. I thought we were doing like a Marvel thing, but I'm not very good at that stuff. So
but what's your assumption here? I mean, the immediate thing that I thought of, she's trying to do all this like misdirect, but I mean, if Andy is really this tech-driven and this obsessed about his kid, the kid is chipped, right? So he knows where this kid is at all times, regardless of what she's trying to do.
Yes, like most kids should be, he is chipped. Unless you read Revelations, then we most certainly shouldn't be chipped, because the good book says no. Anyways, I thought the same thing. I was like, clearly he can track his son in some way, shape, or form. Certainly if, Tom, your theory is true and Zoomer is still a robot, then he is definitely chipped. This was a strange story. I don't know. I don't want to go into the like abusive spouse trying to get away and the difficulty of those things. I just like, I don't know. This was just strange. So I don't know if she's telling the truth. Do you have a theory on whether or not this is a story being made up, or whether or not, I mean, the show is certainly pitching us, and based on how this episode ended, that Andy is the like the bad guy, but I don't feel like, I don't know, is that going to be a surprise? If it is Andy in the end, I'm going to be like, okay, we kind of knew he from the beginning. I mean, look at the picture of the show on Hulu. It's like Darby standing there, and then Clive Owen is like looming over her, like Trump and Hillary at the debate. Like, I don't know. That's a reference people will get.
No, I'm with you though. I mean, when this episode ended and it kind of like has Andy being the big bad, we're getting all of this from her backstory. And we've watched other shows like in the After Party from Apple TV where it's people's like mind movies. It's them telling their version of it. So we don't know if what Lee is telling is true, but it certainly seems heartfelt and it seems true. I like the concept or like the idea of Darby's backstory kind of paralleling here, where she was trying to kind of help abused, battered, and in this case like murdered women find some form of justice. Kind of maybe trying to do the same with Lee and trying to help her escape this situation that she's in. Like it has some ties in there. So, but I'm with you. Like that's maybe what I didn't love about this episode was just putting all the eggs in the basket of Andy being the bad guy. I would like it if there is some kind of extra twist.
Sure, I think there will be. I'm hoping there will be. Also, Tom and I have always been proponents of this. I feel like Lee should have just shot Andy. We've always big fans of murder. That's why we're doing a show on murder. When Andy says you can go, Zoomer stays, Lee should have shot him in that moment. Well,
they were on a plane at that point.
Well, I mean, parachutes. Did she not think of parachutes? One parachute for Zoomer, one for her. Or if this is a Tom Cruise movie, one parachute, and then you have to dive out and and grab the other one.
Well, the kid's name is Zoomer. I'm assuming he could probably fly anyways.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, is he a Mazda kid? Is that what it is? That's a commercial reference that I will get years from now when I listen to this again and wonder what I was doing with my life at this time.
Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. The app is simple. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports app today and use code FIELD and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FIELD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Lee, ultimately, there's no leaving Andy. Mm-hmm. And
well, before you go on, you got to I don't know if you said it, like, you can go, Zoomer stays.
That's what I said on the airplane, and she should have shot him. That's exactly.
I'm just saying, like, that line was delivered so well from Clive Owen. It was like so menacing and brutal.
Yeah, he's a great King Arthur, and he's great at being a terrible spouse and mediocre father, maybe? I don't know. I guess jury's still out on that. Mm-hmm. Rohan, Bill, and David were the ones that were getting Lee and Zoomer out. This is the team of 3. This is the dream team of 3 that are trying to get Lee and Zoomer out, according to Lee's story, if we buy it.
They're the 3 teacups. I found this whole conversation to be... That's their team name.
Is that their call sign? Teacup 1, this teacup 2, come in. Are we brewing? We're brewing. Bring sugar and cream. Tom, I'm not gonna. No. Give me some time, man. Going. Let me develop this. You came up with the teacups. Let me come up with a conversation. All right, fine. You've ruined it. Go ahead.
No, I just felt like this back and forth conversation that they were having was, I don't know, too exposition-y dumping for me. Like, they just kind of kept explaining how all these characters came together and how their stories were perfectly aligned and how Darby was the bait and how Bill was calling on Rohan. You used the Argentinian to get you to Buenos Aires. It was just a little bit too much. Like, and then Darby has to, like, button it by saying, it was a good plan. You had a great idea. It's like, well, really? Did she? Like, bringing him to this, like, AI-driven compound, I don't know, was going to be the winning solution here.
I agree with you. I wasn't quite sure whether or not this was, once again, Lee trying to misdirect and the show trying to misdirect. And once again, that's where I want it to be. I don't want it to be as simple as all of this. But it is funny for them to be like, listen, here's how it all worked out, even though we still have a finale. I do want to mention this episode was 47 minutes, which is wonderful. Tom, the finale is 42 minutes long. So...
Love it.
Have they run out of things to tell us? I don't know. We'll find out next week on Teacups. Lee's like, Zoomer can't grow up in a house of pain. Tom, do you remember House of Pain as like a clothing company?
Daddy Mac will make you jump. Isn't that House of Pain?
Oh, were they a band? Were they a musical group?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe get yelled at, probably.
I had a Pog Slammer that had a House of Pain hologram sticker on it. That's what I think of when I think of House of Pain.
Oh, so House of Pain being like a pane of a window?
No, House of Pain being the neurons in your brain telling you something hurts. Tom, should we take some time to explain what Pogs are to people?
Sure.
Okay. Speaking of Knott's Berry Farm, that's where I found out about Pogs. We are bringing it around. Darby's like, listen, I've spent too much time thinking about the murderer. I need to understand the victim. And I was like, which victim? There's a lot of victims. What are we doing?
She calls it the big old mistake, like it's a common thing. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Next time your doctor walks in, he's like, I made the big old mistake. You're going to be like, yeah, you focused on the killer, not the victim, huh? And he's going to be like, no, you're dying.
No, I
Anyways.
left my scalpel in your tummy.
I guess the big old mistake is different for different things. For detectives, it's trying to understand the murder rather than the victim. For physicians, it's leaving the scalpel in the stomach. For train conductors, it's not applying the brake. There's a number of big old mistakes that, yeah. Anyways, big old mistake, I think, is my spouse's name for me. Oliver, is this where Oliver shows up?
Yeah, and he does this like very dramatic, like, I don't know, he's banging on the door,
that's
comes
right.
in,
Yeah.
they run to the corner, and they both rings are deactivated, so they can't leave this room. Like, I don't know, it was like played for this horror element.
She
It was
picked
so
up a
silly.
murder rock. She was ready to murder him with a rock. He's like, what's going on here?
That or try to crack open somebody's helmet.
Tom, helmets are uncrackable. If I've discovered one thing, my son found a helmet in the garage and he put it on, and I was like, "Don't suffocate." There was no face mask or anything. It was a wide open like scooter helmet, but whatever. What was very funny is I went from like enjoying Oliver's banter to not enjoying Oliver's banter very quickly in the span of. Also, he's walking, so I guess we've determined he can walk short distances, but then he's in a wheelchair.
Oliver has some goofy one-liners here. Like this part where he kind of like joins the team here, I thought was kind of silly, but as he kept going and kept giving some great one-liners, I was kind of all in on Oliver.
Yep. And so they go. Oliver, because Oliver's like, don't leave me here alone. I don't want to wait in my room and die. And I was like, oh, that's a fair point. So Lee, Darby, and Oliver roll and walk over to Bill's room, and and she's like incepting the crime scene. She starts to she smells his clothes, which Oliver brings up later, which I thought was great. He's like, well, you were smelling a dead guy's shirt, so that's something.
She's using the sense memory. I do feel like it's goofy that their keys or rings or whatever don't work on whatever door they were in, but they do work to go in Bill's room. You figured they would have locked that room down.
No, listen, he OD'd. It's no longer a crime scene. Open and shut case, as they say. Those police are making the big old mistake, which is when you open and shut a case without looking at the evidence. Ask any cop. That's what they'll define the big old mistake as. All right. She says something here where she goes, I keep thinking about that footage. And I was like, okay, thank you, show, for reminding us. And then they go back. And you were the one that pointed this out on the first watch, I believe, right? The light as the door opens?
Yeah. And I'm assuming this has got to be. They make it sound like it was a great hacker that edited himself out of the footage. They didn't try to cut it out because that could have been like the
timestamp.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's Zoomer just based on like the height, and maybe he came in and they were using that VR thing, and he's the one that, because like Bill would have just let Zoomer in no problem, right? Like seeing what this kid's doing. But the fact that we don't ever see Zoomer like leave the room, there's no footage on the camera of anybody leaving, I feel like is maybe why they did edit themselves out. I don't really know what to think. All I could think about in this sequence was this guy carrying a Microsoft Surface Duo, which is this weird 2-screened foldable phone that nobody in the world uses. I thought was funny. And I feel like they tried to feature it like, oh, look how cool this is. You could do 2 things at once, and then you could fold it. That was funny.
And that's been Tom's Cell Phone Corner. Thank you for joining us. Tom, there was a moment where I got real confused because there were 2 screens and then she folded it and there was 1 screen. And I was like, what is this sorcery? What is this black magic? What's going on here? So I'm glad you identified, so now I don't have to live in fear of what's happening.
It's like a joke phone that like Microsoft came out with and like nobody bought. So like from a tech community, it's kind of like I'm sure people saw it and laughed as well.
Sure, they call that the big old mistake in the cell phone community, the Microsoft Surface Duo. All right. She goes into like a paranormal, supernatural trance where she's reenacting Bill's death. I was like, all right, well, this is fun to watch, but
I don't know. She's understanding the victim, baby.
Understand. He reaches for the book of their true crime memoir, The Silver Doe, And I was like, I don't think Bill was holding a book when she watched him die through the window. I don't remember.
This was
any of
before
this.
the gargling noises.
Okay. So I don't know. I was like, all right, you were there. I don't know. I guess she's doing everything before she showed up, right? Because he was already on the floor, and he's like, "Don't leave me." So maybe I'm being too critical. Is that possible? No, I don't think I'm being too critical. Never. But they're like, "Oh, look at the page with all the blood on it."
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Lee and Oliver are like, hey, you have to read this because maybe this is a clue. And then I immediately thought, oh, okay, cool. She's going to start singing that song again. I was hoping that would just happen in this room all by themselves. But you can't gloss over Oliver's line here where she's like, I don't normally read this part. And Oliver's like, well, that's where all the blood is. It was just so corny and cheesy, and like even when they cut away after she tells this whole backstory, which we'll walk through, they're still like on that same page. So this is a very summarized version.
Yeah,
It only fits on one page.
Well, okay, let's drive into the flashback because there's some things that come out of this and that Oliver says afterwards that I was like, wait, what? But very quickly, we cut back to the part where they're like disassembling the stairs, and we find out that the killer doesn't shoot Bill, the killer shoots himself, which I would argue is a better outcome.
Yeah, and I feel like Bill gets like a comical amount of blood splattered on him, and then for some reason he gets tinnitus. Darby's perfectly fine. I mean, I have tinnitus, so I get it, or tinnitus, but he was struggling.
Yeah, no, I don't know what this is supposed to show. This is supposed to show, I guess, that Bill's an internet sleuth. He's not used to all of these things where hardened coroner's daughter, Darby, is just like, oh, I've seen plenty of people shoot themselves in front of me. Also, what I thought was interesting here is she abandons Bill very quickly to identify who the guy is and then run to the neighbor. And Bill is just down there covered in blood, ears ringing. And Darby's just like, I'm out. I guess I found all that interesting. And it goes to Bill's point of, hey, you are really focused hard on this rather than, and you're losing sight of everything else.
Yep.
But Frank Bell was the killer. Did we know that name before? Did we?
We knew like E-Bell. I think that was on one of the pieces of jewelry, I guess. But I don't know if we knew he was like a former cop. But I guess they're giving this guy some more backstory.
Sure. That guy killed himself real quick. I would recommend to serial killers, if you're listening, have a conversation with whoever snuck into your basement and found the body. Like maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe they're a contracting crew that came to the wrong house and they're like, oh, we were sent to do the stairs. And then you can be like, oh, these aren't the stairs. No. What's the address? Oh, no, this is 1201. You want 1210. That's across the street. And then you help them out of your basement and you send them on your way. Do all that before you shoot yourself because it's real tough to come back after you shoot yourself because that's
she makes a point earlier that he was probably following them specifically on Reddit, which I thought was kind of interesting because they already laid the breadcrumbs that the killer wanted to be kind of found. So yeah, maybe he already did know of these two individuals looking for him.
So you think there's a post where they're like, headed to Frank Bell's abandoned house, LOL, hope everything turns out. And he reads that and he's like, wait, when was this posted? Okay. And then he's ready. I found that strange. Another piece of advice, not for serial killers, but people looking for serial killers. Don't post when you're going to visit them. That's my other advice. And this has been Julian's Advice Corner. Thank you. They say, for serial killers, the big old mistake for serial killers is killing yourself too soon. Wait, no, that's not right. Anyways,
this is not good.
Yeah, let's move on. I'm gonna get sued. All right, so this all leads to Darby doing a very I don't know. I worried for the 911 operator. There's a lot of information being passed to this 911 operator. I've talked to 911 operators before. Lovely people, but I don't think they're ready for all the information that Darby gives.
Yeah, all she really needs to know is we're sending police to your spot. But I mean, I don't know. You could argue this 911 call is being recorded. Darby probably knows that, so she's just laying it all out.
Darby's like, listen, we've been following this killer for all these years. This is what we did. And the 911 operator's like, listen, there's a lot of other calls coming in. Can I just send police your way? We're very busy today. A lot of serial killers killing themselves. At the hotel, we have a gross, bloody bath. I don't know. Shower, maybe? Not bath? The wrong time for bath, right? And motel baths are not big enough for 2 people. I'm just gonna say it right now. Change the water. You know, this is like the goldfish that your kid brings home from the school fair. Change the water. That's all I'm gonna say before you just sit in it.
It was gross.
All right. In the bath that's much too small, in the bloody water, they start to have a conversation. And this conversation felt like it was a little bit all over the place, but the point I pulled from it was Bill's like, she says something about like appreciating the work, or he thinks we were appreciating the work, and Bill's very quickly like, I don't care about the killer. The killer is the worst. It's not what he says, but that would be a great thing to say. And I don't know, Tom. What'd you pull out of this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think Oliver brings it up a little bit later, but he mentioned specifically like faulty programming, or it's just basic code repeating itself over and over again, which again, I think is trying to hint us as an audience to the AI of programming and code, and that is what's leaving or leads to his death and the deaths of others here in this hotel in the current.
Well, this felt pigeonholed to me because this is what Oliver, and this is what I mentioned earlier, this is what Oliver gleans out of this retelling, is he's like, it's interesting that Bill said this. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it was silly.
It's almost as if Darby was like, our serial killer was hacking other people to death. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, this all leads to some awkwardness that I guess happens to 2 people in small baths with bloody water. But the more important question is, does Bill have the worst tattoos of anyone ever in the history of the world, Tom?
You're just jealous you can't pull them off.
True. You've seen right through my facade.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Let's move on to Bill being gone in the morning. And no, Bill's not fake gone. Bill's real gone, because he's not getting coffee and Coke this time. He is gone.
He's gone, boy.
Yes, the famous movie Gone Boy.
I didn't like the way they shot this. Like, we knew Bill wasn't dead, but like the way they shot this, it made it seem like Darby is like slowly and suspensefully going into the bathroom, like he might have like committed suicide, or I don't know what she was looking at. Why did they film it so like that?
Well, great point. And so 47-minute episode, I don't know if you realize this, a ton of this stuff was from like other episodes that because we've seen this scene where she goes into the bathroom, she sees the bloody water, and you're supposed to think either Bill was killed or committed suicide. So it felt like, did we run out of material and we're just piecemealing these last 2 episodes? I'm going to be real upset if we don't land the plane on this show, Tom, because we have spent a lot of time on it. But yeah, there were several times during this episode, it was like, oh, we've seen this, that we're just like copy pasting scenes. And that was one of them, because we know he leaves. So yeah, I'm with you. It was confusing. The thing that we don't know is that he's given up all of his earthly possessions. His Microsoft Surface Duo has been thrown in the bloody water, as well as his laptop that says Fangs in his Stussy logo handwriting. That's all I could think about was the Stussy logo.
I just think it would have been great if Darby immediately just ran to the store and got like buckets of rice and then tried to dry out these devices.
I don't know a lot about technology, Tom, but I know. Why don't they just throw Ray in a bathtub? If you threw Ray in the bathtub, he'd stop working, right? He's an electronic.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. That's how it works.
All right, we're back at the present, and all I wrote was Darby is sad and Lee comforts her. I'm assuming there was more hair brushing and the salon's open for business again.
I think Oliver's got a good line. He's like, it's good to cry. It's like throwing up. It's worse than keeping it in. You'll end up like a bitter bee. Which I'm like, I don't know where he's going with that. I don't really know if it makes sense, but it was comically delivered from Mr. Oliver.
Yes. Once again, Oliver went from I was enjoying him to I was not enjoying him. Very in the span of a couple of minutes of this show.
But yeah, like, and then they get to the thing about like Darby. She's never read this part of the book, and that she doesn't do it because she didn't want to believe that she wasn't able to meet love. And they both kind of say, "Oh yeah, I know what you're saying." Like, I don't know. I guess she feels like she was in her own way here, or was pushing Bill away. I didn't really know what to make, but I thought it was kind of silly how both of them were like, "Oh, we know exactly what you're talking about," because I was kind of confused.
No, Tom. And maybe this is just because we're two fellas that have never known love. But when she says something like, I didn't want to believe, when she says, I wasn't able to meet love, I was like, wait, who's Love? Is there a character in the show called Love? I was extreme. It was just the wording of it. I feel like someone put pen to paper and we're like, oh yeah, this will be deep. And the two people in the room were like, yeah, I understand that. If I would have been in this room, I would have been like, wait, what? Can you rephrase that? I have a question about meeting love. Kevin Love, I believe he's a basketball player. That's where my mind went. But
I think she just wanted to go to that show in Vegas. Love, the Beatles one, right? Cirque du Soleil. Yes,
that's exactly what she meant. And now the show instantly makes sense to me. This is all just one big advertisement for that giant globe in Las Vegas that looks like a video screen. I believe it's called the Globe.
Nope.
This is where Oliver brings up. He's like, hey, I want to point out something that we shoehorned into this show that Bill said. And it's a comment about bad programming and basic code repeating. And this immediately leads him to be like, oh, so Lou May is the murderer. And I was like, wait, we jumped from one thing to another so quickly. And the show was like, not holding my hand. The show like grabbed the front of my shirt and was like, hey, this is now where we're throwing like suspicion on. And then they're like, oh, maybe it's Ava, the doctor. And I was like, what are we doing, show? I don't know. Very confused.
It's just trying to throw all these characters who we've had like no screen time and saying they're the murderer. Like none of those would be satisfying. If it's Ava, the lady we've seen a handful of times, even if it's Lou Mai, like we haven't seen who's like the filmmaker we saw like a little more heavily featured early on. He's completely ghosted. Like we have no idea where he is. Like it wouldn't surprise me if they try to make him the murderer at some point early in episode 7. It's just like too late to do that.
I like to think that he found a camera and he's documenting this whole thing. And his big documentary debut will be A Murder at the End of the World, written by AI, where AI is the murderer and AI is the director. Very meta is what people will say. Critics say very meta documentary, A Murder at the End of the World. Yeah, so I think that's where the episode ends. Nothing else happens. Everything's good. Nope. She's quickly like, hey, let's get you out to the boat. Let's get you and zoom her out of here and we'll escape. And it's like,
I mean, that's the loose thread we have because we know the Zodiac is out there, that there is some other boat that she makes mention, like, oh, the captain would never leave the boat behind or whatever else.
No. The boat would never leave the captain behind. That's
sure?
That's the line, yes. Because the captain would never leave the boat behind would mean that captain would never step on dry land again. But,
I don't know. You seen Titanic? That guy went down with the ship.
Oh, man. That guy was also the Lord of Rohan. So that guy can do no harm in my world. Andy and Todd show up, and they show up with David, and David looks to be living his best life. Seems to be pretty healthy. Nothing wrong with him. Jaw's not broken, not beat up at all.
No, and Andy gives that menacing line. He's like, "There's my wife," and that's like the end of it. I think Clive Owen is acting the heck out of it, and Again, we don't know if Lee has been telling the truth about Andy, but the way he delivers this line in the present, it was pretty bone chilling.
Okay. So I think we're aligned in this, and I just want to talk this out. Do we think they are sending it so hard at Andy that it can't be Andy? Are we going to be disappointed? I will be disappointed if Andy is the big bad, and this all just comes down to a like controlling, abusive, tech genius. Because I don't feel like that's.
I feel like the twist they're going to do for it, I think it is. I think what we were told in this episode, I think is true. I don't want it to be, but I think it is. And I think the big quote-unquote reveal they're going to have is that the AI was the one driving the decisions that Andy has made. Again, Andy is obviously not a good person, but he's not the one that actually killed Bill or some of the other people. Like, her helmet was hacked by the AI. So the helmet realized, like, oh, she's trying to do something that's going to be mean to Andy or bad for Zoomer, so the AI is going to try to take out, like, Sean. Or, yeah, Bill was going to confront her, so then Bill, or the AI is like, hey, we got to take out Bill. I mean, I think that's kind of what's at play here, and that's going to be the big reveal.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel that Andy is, like, directing the AI to do these things, or that the AI watching Andy's behavior is working under its own AI to do these things? Do you think
I think
Andy...
that way.
Okay.
I don't think Andy's directing. He's not, because they made mention too that Andy didn't know Bill was the biological father until like later on. Like Darby makes a point like, oh, Andy invited Bill because he wants to know more about Zoomer and how his dad operates or something. He didn't know that was his father, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking around in circles.
Okay, so this is helpful for me. So I think, and I'm starting to like this more. So based on the stories we're being told, based on what Lee explained that like Andy did to her and did these things, AI is always watching. They're in this hotel, and so Ray, the AI, acting under its own AI-edness. I don't know how you say any of this. This is
artificial
also
insanity.
Silly. Yes, it is killing people that it feels are either hurting or in the way of Andy, and Andy does not know it is acting on his behalf. Let's go through the murders. How does Ray and the AI inject Bill?
I think they use Zoomer in that little VR headset, and then he like goes into the room. He thinks he's doing something else, but he's actually injecting Bill. Like maybe he never even sees Bill in that room.
Got it. Okay. Rohan, the pacemaker thing, that seems pretty self-explanatory. The AI can control his pacemaker. Sean, the helmet was hacked.
Yeah, it just gets locked up.
Okay. I don't know why she was killed, but it is what it is.
Like
And
the pool
then-
cover, like that's clearly controlled by electronics. So
Okay.
like, they were trying to get rid of Darby at this point because I guess she was getting too close. I don't know what like the catalyst is because they were trying to slow down Darby earlier. But again, there was somebody that physically tackled Darby and tried to stop her. Like who that is, we're not 100% sure unless it's Lee or David dressed up trying to slow her down.
Okay. Do we have any other murders that we haven't talked about?
No, I think those are our three.
Okay. I like this. I like this more. I like the idea of Andy, like, not knowing that AI is murdering on his behalf. I like this better. I don't feel like it's been executed perfectly because it took this conversation for me to get here.
Yeah.
But I do like it. So, Tom, anything else to say about episode 6 before we roll into the finale?
No, I mean, I think like I posted on social media, I still enjoyed the show overall. Again, I could think the acting. I feel like I really liked the actress, Emma, I can't remember her last name, who plays Darby kind of in the beginning.
Watson.
I feel like as the show has kind of gone
Hermione.
on, she's kind of like, I don't know, she hasn't grown on me. I feel like some of her character decisions and not necessarily the actress's acting, but the writing and character decisions she's made has kind of put me off on her. But I don't know. Like, I feel like the writing is fast and loose a little bit on some of this stuff, and maybe this could have benefited, like we talked about earlier, from diving further into these other people's backstories, because this isn't the kind of murder mystery fun that I would have wanted in this show, to be able to try to figure out who done it, because it's really only one of two people, I think, at this point, Lee or Andy.
Sure. Or the AI working independently because robots are bad. I think 7 episodes is a weird number. I feel like we could have like cleaned this up and done 6, or like added what you're saying, these other characters in, and gone to 8. And then I don't know. I'm just being picky to be picky. I still am enjoying it. I like Darby, and I like the actress that plays Darby. My issue is I cannot see her as anything other than Princess Diana because of The Crown. So there are some times where she makes her sad face and she looks sad, and I'm like, oh, that's Princess Diana from The Crown. But anyways, we will be back for episode 7, the finale, where we're going to be high-fiving because we're right and we figured it all out, because we're super sleuths. If you have questions, comments, things that we missed, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. If you've enjoyed us, what we would really appreciate, doesn't take long, is throw a review up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, any one of those. Tom and I still have not been able to quit our day jobs, but one day, that's the dream. Not really. I don't think I could do this for a living. I already hate this show. No. Tom and I have to decide what show we're doing next, which I think we'll probably have a decision by the finale. So thank you all for joining us. Tom, what did I not talk about?
Yeah, follow us on the socials, Twitter and Instagram at Team Binge or Team Binge Podcast. Continue the conversation there. Again, we've had a lot of great conversation from our listeners and some new listeners this season, so thanks again for that. Delia, if you are listening, Seth wants you to buy him more board games, so he has something to do in between our podcasts.
It's Christmas time, Delia.
Yeah,
please.
Hanukkah time. Make it happen.
Hook Seth up. It's the holidays. Yep, that's a good note, Tom.
But there's
for our
PSA.
whole audience, that's a good note.
But there you go. Yeah, so again, excited to get into the finale, and we'll see if AI has driven us there.
Perfect. All right, well, I've been Julian.
I have been Gumshoe Tom. Till next week, everybody.